Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Cancer Connection's annual health forum. As you can see, this year we're going virtual, so welcome to into our homes. I'm Emily Ricci. I am a Cancer Connection board member and survivor, and we appreciate you joining us as we hold our first virtual event. We cannot wait to hear from this year's speaker, the one and only Kikkan Randall. But before we get to the main event, we have a few housekeeping items. Like so many other health forums, this event is made possible by our sponsors, including Bartlett Regional Hospital, Southeast Radiation Oncology, and Cancer Connection. Cancer Connection is a local grassroots organization offering strength, hope, and empowerment to cancer patients and their families in Southeast Alaska. Our services include a monthly survivor support group, a Let's Talk peer support program, a subsidized Seattle apartment, and travel support for those who need treatment outside of their community. You can check out our services at www.cancerconnectionak.org. And on the website, you'll also find a donate option. Please consider a $10 donation to help offset the cost of the event and to support the organization. We also have a number of supporters who have participated in our exhibitor halls, served our meals in the past, and made this event possible. First and foremost, though, today I want to recognize Corey Murphy, who literally made all of this technically possible, and Julie DeLong, who serves and supports us in so many ways. Our other many partners are listed on our website, and even though we can't be together in person, we remain grateful for their support. And in 2020, we need all the support we can get because this has been one challenging year. I recently read an essay from a cancer survivor who compared the feelings of fear, anxiety, isolation, and loneliness of a cancer diagnosis to life in the pandemic. And I think there's something to that. Cancer survivors and their families know what it's like to live with uncertainty. We know what it's like to live with fear. During treatment, many of us have had to isolate ourselves, avoiding people and places that could make us sick. We know what it's like when the world around us suddenly changes, and we've learned how to walk through it. But sometimes that can be hard, and sometimes we need reminders, sources of inspiration. And I can't think of anyone better to provide inspiration than today's guest. For those of you who may not know, Kikkan Randall is a big deal. She's humble, funny, a kind woman who also happens to be an Olympic gold medalist, mother, and breast cancer survivor. She has worked tremendously hard and overcome challenging obstacles to achieve her dreams, and her story is amazing. I'm not going to spoil the main event, so I will pass this off to Kikkan, who will speak for about 45 minutes and leave time for questions. To ask a question, just type it into the chat box on the right and we'll see it. As Corey mentioned earlier, for those who are just joining, there are two options with Zoom. There's a Q&A and there's a chat box. We're going to be primarily using the chat box, so please use that for your questions. I'll try to take a look at the Q&A. But if you have questions, put them in the chat box. We also had a question from someone about if they are muted. You have been muted if you are joining this as a public entity. So we cannot hear you. It's okay. So I think that's about it for housekeeping. Settle in, grab a healthy snack, some tea, and be prepared to be inspired. Kikkan, take it away.
Well, thank you, Emily, and thank you all who have tuned in today. You know, it's a pleasure for me to always be in an event with my fellow Alaskans. You know, I wish we could, of course, be there in person, but these are unprecedented times. It was really cool to see the snow on the ground there in town. I have to say, I'm a little bit jealous as a skier at heart. So great introduction there, Emily, because we are living in a pretty crazy time right now. And prior to my cancer diagnosis, I, of course, was this strong athlete. I was always active and outside, but I had no preview into this world of people who are going through or people who are connected to cancer. And realize this whole realm of uncertainty and fear. And as I've never expected, all of the things I did growing up as an athlete would have prepared me to handle of so much fear and uncertainty. And really, I think not only helped me get through my own experience, but helped me connect with people in a way I never would have been able to before. And so I just want to say it's great to have kind of our family together because this is definitely an experience that unites all of us. And I really believe makes us live a fuller, more joyful, more grateful life. And we have the strength and the tools to be able to tack on almost anything. So like I said, growing up, I had no idea that cancer was going to be a part of my story. I was born on New Year's Eve in 1982. So I like to say there's been fireworks from the beginning. My dad put me on skis the day after my first birthday. I couldn't quite walk yet, but the boots kind of went up over my knees and held me up. And so from those early memories, I was outside, sliding on the snow, playing with my siblings and my friends and family. When I was 3 years old, we moved to Alaska. And again, just so many great memories of being out. Didn't really seem to matter the weather. You just kind of went out and you had fun. You climbed mountains. You found beautiful glaciers. Growing up in Alaska was such a unique experience, and it was building this kind of grit and strength inside that I didn't quite appreciate at the time. So when I was 5 years old, I remember sitting on the living room at my grandparents' house, watching my first Winter Olympics on television. And as I watched those athletes march into the opening ceremonies, and over the course of the next few weeks, watch them compete with the best athletes in the world, I decided right then and there that I wanted to go to the Olympics. Now, a little bit ambitious for a 5-year-old, of course, but my aunt and uncle had gone to the Olympics in cross-country skiing. So I figured I just wanted to follow in their footsteps, except for I was going to do something way more exciting than cross-country skiing. So I started getting involved in all these active sports, and along the way, that Olympic idea was always kind of in the back of my mind. So I grew up playing sports in middle school and high school. Midway through high school, I was turning into a pretty fast runner, and I was loving to see how my kind of really putting in the hard work and that peer effort helped me achieve good results. So I really had my sights set on this big goal to try to win the state championship in cross-country running. Well, I ended up falling off my bike a week before the season started, and I fractured my collarbone. And so instead of being out running with my teammates, doing all the training I needed to get that performance, I ended up having to do some training on a spin bike in this kind of dark basement room at the bottom of my high school. I had to do some running in the water. And I remember at the point, like having these conversations in my mind of just feeling like, this is so frustrating. Like I was on track and now I can't run and I can't do this and it hurts. And as I was kind of complaining about a couple of these things, my coach at the time reminded me that we had time until the state championship. And he was confident that if I did my workouts on the spin bike, even though it was hard and uncomfortable, he felt that I could keep up enough fitness. So kind of with his guidance and his enthusiasm, I kind of went, well, if this is what I can do, I'm going to make the most of it. And I ended up, after a few weeks, my collarbone healed up enough. I got back into running. And that year, I kind of surprised myself and everybody and won the state championship. And so that was my first like real experience of seeing that when you're up against a big setback, while our mind wants to focus immediately like on all the things that are terrible about what's going on, being able to kind of reorient and focus on the things that I could do, it turned out with this awesome state championship. And I think that felt like such a high because I had just come from a low. So 8 months later, I ended up breaking my back in a ski race. And there I was back on that spin bike again, trying to keep myself in shape for running. Through those experiences, I think I learned a lot. So once I got going a little bit more in high school, I started to realize that cross-country skiing was actually kind of a cool sport because it combined the speed that I had done in alpine skiing, and it combined the peer effort of the running. And there was a bit of a team component to it, like I'd had with soccer. And I was also really intrigued by the fact that no American woman had ever won an Olympic medal in cross-country skiing. So it was this kind of like big dream of like, wow, it would be cool to go to the Olympics, and it would be cool to try to be the first American woman to ever win an Olympic medal in my sport. But again, it was very ambitious because it was going to take years to develop into a top skier, and there was nothing to say that it was possible. But I felt incredibly motivated just by the idea. I thought, why not try? So I ended up qualifying for my first Olympic team in 2002 when I was 19 years old. And it was that dream come true. Walking into those opening ceremonies in front of 80,000 fans, competing against athletes whose posters I still had on my wall. It was amazing. But I wasn't very good. I raced my heart out and my best result was 44th place. So it didn't really seem possible to go after a medal. But standing there, seeing those winners go up on the podium, again, I decided, why not try? Why not decide to be hopeful about what could happen in the future? So after those games, I sat down with my coaches and I figured out all the steps I would need to build up through in order to compete for an Olympic medal. And by the time we mapped it out, it was going to take 10 years to get to that level. Now, at the time, I'm only 19, so thinking about 10 years towards a goal was pretty daunting. But at the same time, now I had a roadmap. I could see that I didn't have to go from 44th to 1st overnight. I just had to work on these small goals, and if I could do that, then it would build up and build up. So we made out this plan, and I started working on it. And a few years in, things were going pretty well. And then on the 4th year, I hit a roadblock. I finished dead last in World Championships. Our relay team got pulled out. And at the end of that season, they had to cut funding for the women's team. So I started to kind of wonder if my goal of attempting at that point to just kind of say, throw up my hands and walk away. But because I had that roadmap, I knew I needed to at least see it through to the next checkpoint. So I went to the 2006 Olympics, qualified, got out there. The day before my race, I again started to listen to that conversation going on in my head. And the negative voice was winning that day. It reminded me that my legs were tired, my competitors looked a little bit strong, and that I had written this very clear goal that I had been public about to finish in the top 20. But as I listened to that conversation, I realized there were so many things that were outside of my control. My competitors, I couldn't do anything about them. My legs, well, I just had to focus on going out and skiing as well as I possibly could. So I decided to kind of reorient that conversation in my head and just focus on going out and skiing as hard as I could. Not thinking about the result, not thinking about my competitors. And it ended up unlocking this ability to just go out and be pure. And I ended up surprising myself and finishing 9th place, which was the best women's result we had ever had at the Olympics. And in that moment, I kind of realized a few months before that, I had been ready to walk away from the sport. And here now, I got a top 10 at the Olympics, which proved I was on track to my plan to try to compete for a medal someday. So thank goodness I stuck with it. And then of course, that day before, I could have totally psyched myself out. But I had the ability inside. And when I was able to just focus on what I could control, I unlocked a level of performance that I didn't even know I had. So that was an incredible learning experience. Was feeling strong and confident. After that, I got named to the national team. So I was competing on the World Cup every weekend. That's a series of races that happens all over the world. You race the world's best racers week in and week out. I may have gotten top 10 at the Olympics, but the next weekend I wouldn't necessarily have skied so well. So I had to kind of, again, be really good about finding the small successes and seeing the progress, like literally marking off like each day at a time, each race. So I had my head down. I'm doing these races. I'm finding those little successes. I'm learning, like even when I had a race that seemed like an epic failure, that, you know, I finished the race, I was maybe a little disappointed, frustrated, maybe I was really tired. I really tried to look at each experience and say, okay, what's positive from this and what can I learn from it? And that kept me going through the next few years that it took to build up. Well, now all of a sudden, remember that 10-year plan? Suddenly 10 years had gone by. And as I came into the 2014 Olympics, I was considered a gold medal favorite. I had been winning all of the sprint races on the World Cup, including on that Olympic course. So I came into those Olympics knowing that I had actually built myself into a competitor that could compete for that historic first ever women's medal. I believed it deep down in my heart that I was ready to do it. And the world was watching. NBC had sent a team, like everybody was talking about this chance to make history. So that day, when I'm out there skiing the day before the race, I have that conversation in my head again. And this time I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. But I know that the most important thing is to go out the next day and give it my best. So I decided to make myself a promise. And that is, if I go out there tomorrow and I ski as hard as I possibly can, I take risks and I leave with no regrets, then no matter what the result, I am going to walk away satisfied. And as I say this to myself, I can picture standing on top of that podium. So the next day comes and it's 60 degrees out. What? I thought we were at the Winter Olympics. This is crazy. The snow is literally melting under our skis and they're throwing salt to try to keep it firm. But I don't panic because I ski on the glaciers in Alaska in the summertime, and I have prepared for precisely these challenging conditions. I get my quarterfinal heat list, and it's going to be very, very competitive. Only 2 of us will be able to move on to the next round. So when the gun goes off, I set my poles in the snow. My strategy is to go out hard, get the lead, go up the hill as hard as I can, and just lead to the finish. Well, I get to the front, I get to that climb, and I put my head down and I ski as hard as I can up that hill. By the time I get to the top, my legs are searing with lactic acid. My heart is pumping so hard, I can't even hear what's going on behind me. So we get around this hairpin turn, down into the stadium, come into another hairpin, and as we come through the slush, I feel my ski start to come off the ground. But thanks to all the preparation, I got that ski back down and I headed into the stadium. And as I was getting ready to come off the final turn, I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna kick it into my final gear here. But as we came off that last turn, I kind of realized I was already in my final gear. So I'm sprinting towards the finish down the home stretch. I can see that finish line and I start to feel shadows come up on either side of me. And I'm thinking, no, trying to focus on that finish line, give everything I have. At the last second, I lunge for the line and I see a flash out of the corner of my eye. When I stop and look at the scoreboard, I realize I'm not first and I'm not second. So I'm not going to automatically advance. But we've had the fastest heat, and whoever wins the photo finish for third moves on and was what they call the lucky loser. When the result comes out, I've lost by 0.05 of a second. 0.05 of a second ends up being the difference. 14 years of hard work, the difference between competing for the medals and being done for the day. As I processed that news, which was absolutely not what I had planned and expected, I remembered that promise that I had made to myself the day before. And that is, if you go out and do your best, take risks, no regrets, then no matter what, you will walk away satisfied. So as I left the finish area, I really clung to that and I realized that, yeah, I wanted to get that gold medal. I knew I was capable of getting that gold medal. I knew a lot of other people wanted me to get that gold medal, but I gave it my best and I could be proud of that. At the end of that season, I had a big decision to make. I would not get another chance at my best individual event for 8 more years because of the way the techniques work. My husband and I wanted to start a family. I'd had a pretty amazing career up to that point. Was I ready to retire? But at the same time, I had just gotten to the fun part. I had put in all that work over 14 years. And the most compelling part was that we had started to build this team of athletes from all over the US who were essentially competitors against each other, but we had come together and supported each other, and now the team could compete for medals in the next Olympics. So I decided to make kind of an unconventional decision. I took a season off got pregnant. While I was pregnant with my son, of course, there was no textbook to say, this is how you should train, or this is how you can come back to elite competition. It was a total experiment. But as I went through my pregnancy, I really listened to my body, and I was surprised at what I was able to do. Some days I got out there and I didn't feel that good right away, but I would at least kind of give it a little time, see if I warmed into it. And turns out, actually, my body, once I got moving, I felt better, and I was able to do quite a bit of training. So through that experience, I kind of learned that our bodies are amazing. And if you are in tune with your body, it will tell you when it's time to rest, or when maybe you can do that. And I found that being active through that whole thing made my pregnancy an enjoyable experience. And then when my son Breck was born in spring of 2016, I was able to get back to training fairly quickly because I had this amazing base. When I became a mom, life changed forever overnight, because now life wasn't just about ski racing anymore. It was about this amazing little being in my life. And my perspective in that moment really changed. I realized it was about setting a good example for my son. It was about continuing to give my best. But at the end of the day, I had this little boy that was excited to see me. So I worked my way back into form. It took a lot of patience. I did not feel good and strong right away, but every day, every week, every month, kind of gradually built up. And in the winter of 2017, I ended up winning a bronze medal at the World Championships, and I got to take my son up on the podium. And that was a pretty amazing stamp of not approval, but gave me the proof that I had worked my way back once again by focusing on what I could do, listening to my body, having this amazing support team around me that was willing to kind of help me raise my son and allow me to get back to training and racing. And here we were winning a medal, and that gave me the perfect runway into what I knew was going to be my last competitive season in 2018. So we come into that winter, and the team that we had been working on over the previous 4 years had gotten so strong that there were 6 women for 4 spots. So I knew going into that season that it was going to be really hard to even make my own team. 6 weeks before the Olympics, just when I thought everything was going perfectly well, I developed a stress fracture in my foot. So while all my teammates continued on the race plan like we were supposed to, I had to go back to that spin bike and the aqua jogging in the pool. And in my mind, I was completely freaking out again, because I'm like, here we go, we're so close, it's the last Olympics, my teammates are strong. But by that point, I had all these experiences to build up to remind me, okay, well, here's a setback. You just got to focus on what you can do. You've got to stay optimistic. You got to get people around you that can help and build back and give it your best shot. So we came into the 2018 Olympics. By that point, I had gotten my foot to heal just enough that they cleared me to race. I narrowly got a spot in the first race. That one I performed a little bit better, so I got another shot. But when it came time to decide who was going to be on the 2-person team sprint, which was the race that we knew the Americans had an outside chance at a medal, it came down to 36 hours before the race before they selected who was going to be on that team. This was going to be my last shot at an Olympic race, my last shot to race with a teammate, which was always one of my favorite parts of competing. So I'm sitting in the athlete village at 10 o'clock at night with a couple of my other teammates, and the coach walks in and he tells me that they've selected me for the team. I get to compete one more time. So this is incredible news, right? Because I know I get the spot, but at the same time, the butterflies in my stomach start going crazy, because I know I am representing my team up against some of the best athletes in the world. And not only that, but some of the best athletes that have ever been in cross-country skiing. And I've got to do my job as leg number 1 to keep us in the race so that I can tag off to my teammate to fight for the medals. So while I am so nervous sitting around, I also recognize that my whole career has prepared me for this point, and that if we win a medal, awesome. If we don't, I know I still have an incredibly full life. And I think having that perspective of not just my performance riding on one thing, but just being confident in the process, grateful for the experience, I was able to just keep myself calm and ready that night. So I get to the starting line. We're in this big stadium. The lights are so bright, even though it's 7 o'clock at night, we're wearing our sunglasses. And when that camera panned in front of me for the introduction, I planted my poles in the snow, and I knew that I was ready to roll my eyes back in my head if I had to fight for my team. So a team sprint is one of the most grueling races we do because it's around a challenging 1 kilometer course. This one in particular had a gigantic climb on it, and you have to race it 3 times, tagging off to your teammate in between. So it would be like racing around the track as hard as you can, then getting a 1-minute break, and then having to do it again, and then a little break, and then doing it again. So as the race unfolds, we tuck ourselves in. Through the first lap, things are going well. Going on to the second lap, the pace accelerates and things definitely get hard, but I am able to just hone my focus in. On the last lap, my teammate tags off to me in the lead. As we're going out of the stadium, we're with Norway and Sweden, and now the race is just down to 3 teams. So as we go up the first climb, Norway and Sweden seem to want to kind of fight for the lead. So I let them come around so that they can block the wind, saving energy for the end. But as we come into the main climb, a little bit of gap is formed, and I knew I could not let that happen. So I had to dig down all those years of training, take everything I had and climb up and over that hill, but I kept myself glued right there, and I was able to tag off to my teammate in medal contention. And while that was one of the hardest physically demanding races I'd ever done, it was also this incredible feeling of elation for knowing that I had persevered through all that, I had done my effort, and now I got to watch my teammate finish it off the race for us. Well, it was a tight race all the way around that final lap. As the racers were coming down into the stadium, my teammate was sitting in third, but I remember thinking for a split second, oh my gosh, barring disaster, we're gonna get a medal. And at that exact moment, I saw my teammate go so wide off the downhill as she went off the course for a split second. And I almost had to close my eyes thinking, oh my gosh, we almost had a disaster. But she makes it back in at the last second. I run over towards the finish. And as I see the racers come around the last turn onto the home stretch, we are in a dead sprint with Sweden. So I'm yelling at the top of my lungs, and Sweden is right next to me, and she's yelling. So we're yelling, and our partners are sprinting. And this time, when I see that lunge at the line, I look at the scoreboard, and instead of seeing photo finish, I see number 1, United States, 0.19. And I realize we didn't just win a medal, we won the gold medal. And it was the most incredible moment to feel all of that time, my whole lifetime working towards this Olympic dream, doing it together as a team, having overcome all of those setbacks, finally winning that Olympic medal. So in that moment, it almost felt like a fairy tale. And as I tell this story, I think, geez, did that actually happen? So we're going to do a quick little exercise here. I'm going to post a video link on YouTube in the chat. Take a second, click on that YouTube link, watch the video. It's about 3 minutes, and then we're going to come back to this presentation. So if you're on the phone, 3 minutes, do some great visualization, take a little stretch break. We'll be back in 3 minutes. So go ahead and go to that YouTube link, watch the race, and then we will come right back here.
Taking it from the front, forcing the pace against Bjørgen and Kala. Randall, nothing here saying that she's going to...
So the link is now to all attendees as well. So we got to start the 3 minutes now.
Okay, great. Thanks for the tech support.
Should be any second, Kikkan. I just finished, so others should.
All right, awesome.
I would give it a few more seconds, but most people should be finishing up here.
Okay, awesome. And I realized I had sent the link to the panelists, so thanks for backing me up on that one. All right, well, I just watched it again. It did actually happen. Whew! That was such an amazing experience. A dream come true over a lifetime. I have to say, when the next night they awarded our Olympic medals, and my teammate wanted to do a dance on the podium. And so I was super nervous about getting the dance moves right. We went out, they called the United States. We stepped up there, we did our team dance on the podium. And then when it came time to bringing the medals around, I had this superstition that I didn't want to touch an Olympic medal until I'd exhausted all my chances to win one. I was actually at a party with Alaskan snowboarder Rosie Fletcher once, and she had her bronze medal, and it came by and I had to kind of pull a matrix move to get out of the way. So when I leaned over and they put that Olympic medal around my head, I was totally unprepared for how heavy these things are. This Olympic medal weighs about 1.5 pounds, and I literally almost fell off the podium. But as I felt the weight of this around my neck, I thought about all of the journey that had led up to that point. That dream of trying to go after an Olympic medal that no American woman had ever done, but deciding that that future was exciting enough that it was worth trying. Believing in myself, creating a team of people around me that could help, working on one step at a time, building up, hitting so many walls along the way where it would have been so easy to give up or let down, but instead was able to kind of stay focused on what I could do, and ended up having these breakthroughs and being able to make it all the way through that journey, win that Olympic gold medal, and end my career on the highest of high notes. So I finished my career with that gold medal. I got to come back to Alaska and have some amazingly fun celebrations because Alaska had been such a special part of helping me achieve that gold medal, staying, supporting along the way. So we got to celebrate, and then I was ready to start the next chapter of my life. So my husband and my son and I packed up. We moved down to British Columbia to follow my husband's career. And it was Mother's Day, just about 3 months after I won that gold medal. And it was the most beautiful day. It was sunny and warm. My husband and my son and I, my son was 2 at the time, we went out on this hike. And I just remembered having this like supreme feeling of happiness and contentment, like life was just going so well. Well, getting ready for bed that night, I happened to brush past a hard spot on my chest, about the size of a pea. And it would have been so easy to miss it. But thanks to being an athlete, I knew my body really well. I knew that didn't feel right. And I went and got it checked. And I remember walking into when the doctor walked into the room, he looked at me and he went, "You're young and healthy. It's probably nothing." But thankfully we did the tests. And I was actually on my way to a wedding in Sweden when the doctor called and said that the biopsy revealed that I had aggressive breast cancer. And I think so many in this audience can probably relate to that moment when we get the news that we're totally not expecting, or someone who's gotten that news. And as I processed those immediate emotions, it was kind of like being out on the course the day before a race. So many thoughts swirling in my head. And what does your mind want to go to? It wants immediately to go to the fear and the uncertainty and all the things that you can't control. I remember being so like in denial, going, "But I just won an Olympic gold medal. Like, I feel amazing." And then it's switching to frustration and going, "But wait a second, I've done everything right. I eat right. I take good care of my body. Like, no." But then I recognized that this was the reality. And I was just going to have to take that athlete frame of mind that I had learned through so many experiences chasing a gold medal and turn this cancer diagnosis into my next challenge. And while I knew this was going to be so much bigger and harder and gnarlier than, of course, any Olympic race ever had been, I kind of felt that the same tools were going to help me out. So the first thing I did was sit down with my doctors and map out a plan. It wasn't a 10-year plan. It was more based around, okay, what are my treatment options? What do I need to do to get through this? And mapping it out so that instead of this like big, scary unknown, I now had a little bit of a roadmap to see what I had to get through and a place where I could literally check off every day at a time that I was making progress. I knew that I was going to need a team more than ever. And while my first reaction was to kind of feel like I needed to take this inside and deal with it myself and not let anybody know that this strong gold medal Olympian was going through breast cancer, I kind of knew that I didn't need to face this alone. And that just like having teammates to support me in skiing, having people around me to focus my energy on and to kind of help me maybe on those days when I need to be picked up, that was going to be really important. So I decided to be open about the experience. I, of course, was really open with my friends and family, but I decided to actually take it one more step and share this with all the people who had kind of supported me through my ski racing career. And what I didn't realize was how powerful that was going to be. I had been used to kind of being the strong leader out front, but this was the time where I really needed to rely on others. And building that team around was super important. The other part of my team that was really important was having a team of medical providers. The cancer world in some ways can be integrated and sometimes it can be a little bit spread out. So as a patient, I advocated to have my medical team work together. I had my oncologist talking to my breast surgeon, talking to my radiation oncologist. And I think that was really important to really advocate that. And I knew that the teamwork approach was going to be really important, especially for me, because I'm used to working in a team environment. So I had my plan and I had the team really helping. But of course, this was going to be the hardest thing I'd ever been through because there was so much uncertainty and there were going to be so many things outside of my control. So one thing I knew that would give me a little sense of control and a little sense of progress and accomplishment was to try to stay physically active every day. And not knowing how the treatment was going to affect me, I knew I couldn't expect to do the same kind of workouts I had done as an Olympic athlete. So I set the simple goal of deciding to be active 10 minutes every day. I said, if I go out and I do 10 minutes, at the end of 10 minutes, I can decide. If I'm feeling really tired and sluggish, then that's my body's sign that I need to rest. But maybe if I get out there and 10 minutes isn't so bad, I can do a little bit more. So it turned out that 10 minutes ended up being incredibly important. Having made that decision ahead of time, that this is something that I'm going to try to do every day. And every time I do it, it's going to give me that good feeling that I've accomplished something. There were days when knowing I had that 10-minute commitment got me off the couch, where I had been just laying there thinking, feeling miserable, thinking about how miserable I was, thinking about all the statistics and the scary stuff. But getting out there and focusing on just moving for 10 minutes helped me clear my mind, and in many ways helped my body and my mind feel better. So that ended up being incredibly important. And kind of like my pregnancy, I was actually surprised with what I was able to do through my treatment. And it was a different level than my Olympic training, but it felt so good to be able to do something. And like I said, it really helped my body. The other thing that I made a commitment to at the start was that I was going to stay optimistic and I was going to stay focused on the positive. And it was easy to say that when I was feeling really good and I was at the start of everything. So I decided to wear these rainbow colored shoes to my doctor's appointments, so that when all of a sudden we're talking about the treatment and things are feeling a little bit anxious and scary, I could look down at my feet and I could say, okay, stay hopeful, look forward. So as I'm wearing these rainbow colored shoes, it's really helping me through some tough days. So my husband came up with the idea of maybe we could create some socks that could give other people this reminder. And we found ourselves, we kept saying, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And so we put that logo on the socks and we started selling them through my website, donating $2 to an organization that supports cancer, just like the amazing work that Cancer Connection does. And it was so cool to see that these socks were able to help other people, whether it was the person going through their treatment or a family member or a friend supporting someone going through it. We all need that reminder sometimes that things are going to be okay. And it was amazing to give yourself this visual cue that you could remind yourself to get through some of those moments. So I was really fortunate. It was definitely a really hard year, but I think having that plan to help me kind of make it through one session at a time, having that amazing team around me to lift me up and give me that support, and then, literally using those happy socks. When I did my final check after chemotherapy and 2 surgeries and radiation, as far as we know, I'm cancer free. And as too many of us can relate, we know this is not something that will ever go fully away. It's something you can kind of put in the rearview mirror, and there will always be a little bit of fear and anxiety and uncertainty there. But like all the experience I've had, I'm going to choose to be hopeful about the future. Now, we've all been through this pandemic, and this has been unprecedented times. And as things have unfolded, I have found myself reflexively going back to this same toolkit that helped me become an Olympic gold medalist over a 20-year span, helped me get through my treatment for breast cancer, and now is helping me in a time where there is more uncertainty than ever. And particularly if you're going through cancer treatment right now, that adds a whole nother level. But at the same time, I really think that it gives us this inner strength. And we know that if we can just focus on the things we can control right in front of us, we can find those little successes, and we can celebrate those successes with a good team of people around us that are also hopeful for the future and can help us going forward, then I really believe we can get through anything. And we can get the most out of the moments we have. because that is the only thing that is certain, is the time we have right now. And you think about that, like, if I only know I have right now, am I doing the things that are most important with the people that are most important? And to me, that has been the gift or the silver lining of cancer, is it has helped me reorient my priorities. And even in these challenging times, I feel like I'm able to find that gratitude every day. I'm able to do things, small things every day that open up opportunities for the future. And I really think that we all have that toolkit inside. And having gone through cancer only strengthens your ability to be resilient, to be optimistic, and to look forward. So it's been this incredible journey, right? I like to think of life as a book, you know, so many chapters, good chapters, tough chapters, but I know that there are so many good chapters to come. And so with chapters still left unwritten, I'd love to now kind of turn the conversation to some questions that you might have. Again, we have this incredible shared experience. So love to know what questions you have, and it can be the full spectrum. You know, if you want to ask a question about the Olympics, I'd love to answer that. If you want to have a cancer related question, I'm also happy to dig into that, because we're all in this together.
Thank you, Kikkan. What a great story and great messages for us right now. We do have a couple of questions and comments about your amazing socks. And actually, somebody wants to know where can they order the socks. So we'll start with a softball question.
Okay, great. Well, yes, got lots of socks. Would love to get some orders. I made it nice and easy. You can go to Kikkan.com. So that's KIKKAN.com. Once you're on the homepage there's a little button that says shop. It'll take you to the Kikkan shop. You know, if you're not a sock person, if you're one of those people that likes to wear flip-flops year round, you know, even living in Alaska, we've got some headbands and some neck tubes and some cups and tote bags. So there's a little something for everyone. And right now, the $2 donation from every item we sell has been going to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. So it's a great way to you know, support a good cause, and of course get these things in your life that can help you stay oriented on the message, it's going to be okay.
Thank you. As a reminder to the group, if you have a question for Kikkan, please put it in the chat. Make sure you send the chat to all the panelists versus all the attendees. So send it to all of the panelists, and we will start going through your questions. So I have another question for you. You know, especially as a mother, how are you managing to kind of keep hope and positivity in your life for your kids and for your husband as well, right? Because it's not just us, it's also everyone around us.
Well, I really found that the value of being on a team, even in an individual sport, was that, you know, as a group, you can kind of set this expectation that, you know, we are going to be positive, we are going to have a good outlook. And so, you know, we all have our moments where we slip, right? It's like one too many things adds up and you start to get a little bit anxious or, you know, sad or frustrated. And so when we were in a team environment, that always helped because there was always a teammate who could kind of help lift you up. And so in my family, we've really kind of tried to create the same thing of just knowing that as a goal, we're all going to try to stay positive, you know, realistic, but optimistic and ready to be resilient when we need to be. And so, you know, my son's only 4, so he doesn't quite get that yet. But in his own way, he has been the icon of that, in that he is happy-go-lucky. And when I was going through some of my toughest moments in my cancer treatment, I could look at him and his smiling face and go, yeah, that's the future. That, you know, there's hope, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do, you know, to be there for him. And even now in the middle of I can literally stop and I can spend, you know, time with him, just, you know, throwing leaves in the air or running around, or even when he's being just like that like stop and freeze in the moment always kind of recenters me, and it makes me go, yeah, you know, we're going to choose hope here. We're going to choose the future, and we get to build it together.
So we have a couple of participants talking about really the importance of building a healthcare team. And I think even for people who are used to navigating the healthcare system, it can be really intimidating to or to ask for things that you're not seeing. You know, you mentioned how important it was for you to ask your doctors to work together and to build that healthcare team. How did you approach that?
Well, I decided I was going to kind of keep a training log, like I had for my athletics. So my training log, instead of logging all the workouts I was doing, I was trying to kind of capture my feelings every day, because there's some days when I had 10 million questions in my mind, but it was of course never when I was in the doctor's office. So I tried to remember to like take those questions and capture them. And I had like a written notebook, and then I also had it on my phone. So like anytime I had a question, I would write it down, track it in that log. And then when I went into my appointment, I could be like, oh yeah, that's right, I had questions. And then I could look through. And then I also, of course, like talk to other people. I reached out to try to find other people like me that I could relate to. So, in the breast cancer world, women under 40 who get breast cancer, it's under 25%. And then the particular type of cancer that I had is like another, like down to like 5%. So finding other younger women who are active, who had been through this, was really important. And in talking to them, that also helped inspire some certain questions that I needed to ask as a patient coming from my place in life. Because my diagnosis at 35 is very different from someone who's 55. And of course, like one of my first concerns when I got the diagnosis was, I want to have more children. So fertility was really a discussion at the forefront, and knowing to ask those questions in particular was really critical, because I was able to do fertility treatment with Seattle Reproductive Medicine that gave me opportunities for the other side of my treatment to maybe be able to extend my family someday. And if I hadn't been able to ask those questions and get that advice in that time before I started treatment, I may not have been able to give myself as many options later on. So, I think being open, being kind of confident in yourself to share like who you are and what's important to you. And then that sometimes helps shape the questions. And then if you notice, I asked my doctors, like, are you talking to each other? Is my oncologist talking to my breast surgeon? And I was fortunate to get my treatment, in Anchorage at the Providence Cancer Center, where literally my oncologist was on level 3, my breast surgeon was on level 4, and my radiation oncologist was in the basement. So they were in the same building, but even that, I had to advocate for them to kind of talk and work together as a team. And that ended up being really important. So it can be hard. It can be hard to find your voice, especially when you're getting just pummeled with information and being confronted with your mortality in that moment. But I think it's important to kind of find your confidence and know that there is not a stupid question. Like, ask questions, advocate. If you're not getting the answer that sits right with you, talk to someone else. I think you kind of take some power yourself and really just be open-minded, and try to take time to kind of slow down and like let you accept some of this news. And again, mapping it out in that training log was super important, because even when I got an answer to a question, I could write the answer down, and then I could think about it and see what other perspectives might I want to consider. And that was really important.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you. We have a question regarding the type of exercise. What kind of exercise did you do in that 10 minutes a day when you could only do 10 minutes of exercise a day, or at least hitting that goal felt really challenging?
Yeah, well, like in the most simple form, it was a walk around the block. Going out in my neighborhood and just walking for 10 minutes. But it was, like I said, amazing to me how sometimes when I was about to go out the door, I wasn't sure I could walk 10 minutes, but getting out and like making a few steps, it was like, okay, 10 minutes, I think I can do this. And then kind of at the end of that 10 minutes going, well, actually, I feel okay. How about 20 minutes? And one day in particular, I literally said, I am only doing 10 minutes, and it turned into 4 hours. And I had been having like some pretty tough days up to that point. And a couple hours after I did that 4-hour hike, I was with friends in the mountains in Alaska. It was kind of a gnarly day, but I was just like so happy to like have the focus of my friends and everything. That workout, like I think that activity of moving my body helped me actually like turn the corner and feel better than for the days going forward. I had this, after I would get my chemotherapy, my body wanted to retain water. And one day, one instance, I did feel pretty miserable, and I think I was traveling, so I didn't do any physical activity the day after my infusion, and I put on 13 pounds of water weight. So I could feel it. I could feel my ankles, you know, I felt heavy, and I could feel that water retention. Well, the next round, I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I do something the next day. I went out for an easy bike ride. I think maybe it was an hour. It was conversation pace. You know, I had 3 or 4 pounds of water retention that time. So I literally physically saw the benefits of, you know, doing gentle activity to kind of help my body process the treatment I was going through.
Okay, switching gears. Important question. Is your son on skis yet?
He is. So, you know, having that like on skis the day after my first birthday part of my story, I was like, you know, that would be really cool. We ended up waiting till 18 months, got him these little skis that you put on his snow boots, and let him out a little bit. You know, as a parent, I try really hard to just take any expectations I have and throw them out the window and just say, hey, we're going to be outside. I'm going to bring the skis. I'm going to bring the sleds, and we're just going to like get him out there, expose him to everything. And ultimately, if he doesn't want to do it, okay, cool. You know, I just want to present the opportunity. And so we go out and dabble with skis a little bit. Now that he's 4, he's actually been asking about skiing this winter. And we had a snowfall here 2 weeks ago. And so we had 3-4 inches in the front yard, and we put his skis on and we skied around the yard. And so I think he's really excited about winter. And so as a parent, I'm like, I'm really excited too, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
So we have just a couple minutes left. And, you know, if there's 3 things that you hope people take away from the hour that we spent together today, what are those things? What's kind of the 3 core messages?
So I think whatever you're facing, whether it be a small challenge like on a day or whether it's something big, and I like to think of it as two ways. You have those things that you're dreaming about and you're chasing, which can sometimes seem out of reach. But if it's something that keeps coming up in your mind, why not take a moment to take that idea, dissect it, and build it back down to a plan? Or something you're just thrust with out of nowhere, you know, cancer out of nowhere or something. You take that big scary thing and you break it down to points where you start to see like, I can do this one thing at a time. So that's number 1. So take something big and break it down. Makes it more manageable. Number 2, team. You know, again, sometimes when we're facing things, we want to bring inward, but I encourage you to be open and to look for opportunities to collaborate, because I believe that helps us achieve more potential. It makes the journey along the way so much more enjoyable. And it's brought so many amazing things. So be open and collaborate. And then the third thing is, you know, find your happy socks. Choose to believe in a better future. You know, keep that optimism kind of forefront. And if you can put something in your life that helps remind you, whether it's the people around you or, you know, that one thing that just reminds you, as daunting as it seems, as tough as it seems, stay resilient, because you never know that breaking through this challenge might end up unlocking an experience even bigger and more exciting than you could ever imagine. Every single amazing thing that's happened in my life has come after something really hard. So never give up. So those are my things. Break it down, build a team, and never give up.
Thank you. We had one last question about how to deal with fear and depression. I think that relates exactly to what you just said. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add.
Yeah, I mean, you know, these tough feelings are inevitable, and I think really recognizing the conversation in your head, and just, you know that you can reorient that conversation. There are a lot of different tools and ways to do it, but just every time things start to feel like they build up, just kind of take like visualize yourself taking a step back, recognizing these 2 points of views, and just saying like, yeah, acknowledging those things that your brain wants to point out to you, but then saying, how can I take those and reorient them in the right direction? And the more you do that, it's like a muscle. You get better at catching those thoughts and reframing. So, you know, for me, building up as an athlete gave me that skill, that muscle, so that when I faced cancer, I kind of had that natural, like just slipped into that kind of way of doing things, and that helped so much. And now here we are in COVID, and it's like, okay, you know, I'm just going to bring out those tools and I'm going to use it again. So just believe in your power to be able to take yourself where you want to go, whether that's mentally, physically, everything is possible.
Well, Kikkan, we are at 1 o'clock, perfectly timed, and thank you so much. We've had a lot of great comments about how inspiring and fantastic this was. I really appreciate your time today. Don't forget, if you're watching this, to go online to cancerconnectionak.org, make a $10 donation to help support this event. And while you're there, be sure to check out some of the services we provide. Thanks again to Bartlett Regional Hospital, Southeast Radiation Oncology, and Cancer Connection. We appreciate your time so much, Kikkan, and to everyone else who joined us today. I hope you stay safe and you walk away inspired to, if nothing else, get out and do something. It's sunny outside, so I'm going to get out and go on a walk, and maybe I'll just try.
Go enjoy that snow.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.